The UFC antitrust settlement just crumbled. Now, this is probably the biggest story in combat sports. Let me explain what happened and where things probably go from here. So, real quick background, a handful of fighters sued the UFC, arguing essentially that they're an illegal monopoly, that they maintain their position of power through a series of unlawful practices, most notably dirty contract practices. That lawsuit covered fighters from 2010 to 2017 and was looking at over $1 billion of damages at trial. It got certified as a class action, and right on the eve of trial, a settlement was announced. It was announced that the UFC was going to pay $335 million to make the case go away. But that settlement was going to also cover a second case called Johnson that was looking to represent fighters from 2017 until the present day. And those fighters were suing not just for money, but also for contractual changes, trying to shake things up so current fighters aren't going to be under the oppressive landscape that past fighters have been under. Now, because this is a class action lawsuit, the parties can't just settle. A court has oversight over the settlement process and has to make sure it's going to be fair to the thousands of fighters who are going to be impacted by it. And last night, the federal judge overseeing the case said, no, this deal's not good enough. And the court's going to give reasons in detail about why it's not good enough, but essentially, the court thinks the fighters deserve more money, and the court thinks the fighters deserve far more significant contract changes than what was offered in this deal. So things are rejected now. So here's what it means. There's basically three options. Number one, the parties might appeal. They might say, hey, we had a deal in place. The judge was wrong in not approving it because it's a fair deal. But barring that, there's really only two things that can happen. The parties go back to the negotiating table, and the UFC is going to have to cough up a lot more money and make a lot more contractual concessions to make this judge satisfied that it's a fair deal. Or option number two, they go to trial. Now, at trial, the fighters might be awarded billions of dollars in damages, and whatever's awarded, I think their upward estimate is about $1.5 billion. If they win, that number gets tripled. So the UFC could be on the hook for a lot of money if the fighters are successful. And then they've got a second antitrust lawsuit coming their way that's looking to change their contractual structures. So there's going to be some high stakes negotiations underway over the upcoming weeks. And if they can't reach a deal, the first case is set for trial October 28th. Keep an eye on this, folks.